Okay, happy 4th of July. Dan Fitzpatrick here at stockmarketmentor.com. And I hope you guys, I'll just get it out early. I want to make sure you have a happy and enjoyable 4th. Don't lose your fingers by doing some stupid stuff with fireworks that you know you shouldn't be doing. Okay, you can have fun in other ways. I'm not exactly sure what they are, but use your imagination. All right, so with respect to what we're doing on Monday eBay is a really, really interesting stock. It's one of the few that I'm looking at that's had, I guess you could say, a steep pullback, but I don't really see it that way. I mean, it's taken a few weeks and it only pulled back 10%. So you can't really look at this and say, oh, there's a lot of pain in this chart. Like this was a little different here. But even then, this kind of rebounded. What I like about this is it's held right along the 50-day moving average, and now it's starting to kind of work its way out of this channel. Now, the one issue that I have is volume has been pretty thin all the way up. I like to see it the other way around. Now, we are kind of getting into summer here. This is a shortened week. This is a daily chart, of course. But so for the last week, this has kind of been on low volume. It is absolutely something you want to pay attention to, though. If a stock like this, if it continues to run, but volume continues to be light, then that move is suspect. I've made that mistake more times than I want to think about, and definitely more times than I would admit to you. That I'm looking at a chart and I'm seeing the stock start to go, and I'm going, this is fantastic. I'm in. I didn't realize that nobody else was getting in. This is one of the things that Bill O'Neill has written about, talked about before, where he said he could go back on any chart, any stock that he lost money on. He could go back if he's reviewing his trades, and as you should, and find on every single one something that he missed. Maybe it was a volume thing, maybe it was a trend violation or something, but every single one that he lost money on, it's like he made a mistake. So I don't think any of us are any better than Bill was. So I'm just telling you, you look at volume here. It's a big deal. By the way, if you are not a member of Stock Market Mentor, seriously, I really want to invite you to join. I just got an email from a lady. I was joking about it on my session with my members just now. I had a lady that emailed me. She had a real difficult problem that she wanted me to help her with or give some advice on. Turns out she's made over $1 million on Micron. I put people in this a long time ago, and she said after my session yesterday, if you're not a member, you don't know this. I really kind of pounded the table yesterday about all these stocks, saying like as much as we like them, at some point, you got to say maybe it's time to hop off the bull. Maybe it's time for Elvis to leave the building, whatever thing you want to talk about. But sooner or later, you got to get out of here. And so I was just saying, I think these are getting close to being done, if not done. I tell people do not buy them. And then we get this kind of move today, 14%. But so she was saying, like, so what do I do? Do you think I should take them or should I hang on longer? I said, hey, man, if it's $1 million, if it's me, I'm heading for the exits. That's it. And so the point is, she's making that kind of money based on the work that we're doing on Stock Market Mentor. I'm putting people in good trades all the time. It's what I do, and I want you to be one of those people too, okay? It's all I got to say to you right now. But definitely do it. Dude, it's $7. $7 for 14 days. $7 you can spend and not even look at anything, and you're still not going to feel bad. You're just going to say, well, $7. So $7. Anyway, this is what I'd tell you to do with eBay. If the stock runs up, if it runs up above this high here, 115.98, so we'll say 116. I'll just do this. I'll set an alert from myself. Okay. And if it runs up above there, I want to know about it. And I want to know whether volume is heavier than average volume at that point in the day, at that time of the day. Right now, I think it's kind of too late to buy this part of it, and it's too early to buy this part of it. So ideally, remember low volume here. Ideally, this is going to struggle a little bit. This is going to grind around a little bit, give the 50-day moving average more of a chance to catch up to it, and then ultimately be closer to the breakout level to where it doesn't have to climb so far to make it up. So, and then you'd be putting your stop like below the prior day's intraday low. It's typically what I'll do on a lot of trades is just say, okay, well, where did it go yesterday? If it goes below there, I'm out. So anyway, that's my trade idea on eBay. This is, you can see this pattern is actually pretty orderly. May not feel like it if you've held it through the long winters here, but there's been a nice orderly pattern here, and now we're getting another one. Okay, so I think this is ready to, I think this is ready to go, and I don't think you'd be your your trade would be misplaced if you went ahead and made a bid on this one. Who knows? It may be a winner. So that's all I got to say to you, and I will see you um, at Stock Market Mentor. I better see you there next week. All right. All right. Talk to you later.